Okay, we've been studying the life of Elisha and his ministry. Remember way back when God took Elijah away, Elisha asked for a double portion of Elijah's power from God. And someone who counted it up discovered the Bible records twice as many miracles from Elisha as the Bible records from Elijah. We don't know that every miracle either man did was recorded, but the Bible tells us about twice as many from Elisha than Elijah. And if you get mixed up which is which, it's alphabetical order. Elijah comes before Shah. That's how I keep it straight. So we kind of have several short accounts of miracles today. Elisha at some point moved to Gilead, and I wrote it down so I'd remember the city name, which is near the Jordan River. And he moved in with what some translations call a school of prophets. Evidently one building a whole bunch of prophets lived in, and Elisha appears to be the lead prophet. One day, now I don't know how they usually handled their meals, but one day Elisha told his servant, whose name was probably Gehazi, though the Bible doesn't say so in this verse, to go make a stew for everybody there in the prophet's dwelling. And one of the young men that lived there went out and gathered some gourds to put in the stew. Gourds as closely related to pumpkin. But he didn't know the ones he gathered were poisonous. So he cut them up, he put them in the stew, it cooked, and then everyone sat down to eat, and they tasted the stew, and they said, there's poison in this, we can't drink this, is poison.
Wait, how do they know what poison tastes
like? Most poisons are extremely bitter.
Yeah.
So it's just a bitter pumpkin.
It's, well, bitter enough that it's poisonous. It probably would stop your liver from functioning if you ate very much of it. But whatever, Elisha said, bring me some flour. So they brought him some flour. He added that to the stew, and he said, okay, go ahead and eat. They tasted it. It tasted fine. They ate the whole meal. Nobody got sick. Everybody was okay. Flour should not normally make a stew non-poisonous, but it did because God said it would. Then one day, a young man brought Elisha a gift. He brought him a bag of grain and 20 loaves of bread. And Elisha said, cool, let's have supper, let's eat this. And the men around him said, there's 100 people here. You can't feed 100 people with one bag of grain and 20 loaves of bread. And Elisha said, God said you can, and we're going to have leftovers, so do it. So they did. And this sounds very familiar for those who have read the stories of Jesus. Very similar. The men handed out the 20 loaves of bread. Everybody had plenty to eat, and they had leftovers afterwards. Then the prophets came to Elisha and said, you know what, this house just really isn't big enough for us anymore. We need a bigger house. So why don't we go down to the Jordan and let's cut down some trees and let's build us a bigger house to stay in. And Elisha said, well, that sounds like a good idea. And they said, well, come with us. Sure. So they went down to the river, and they're all cutting away. And one of them swung his axe to chop a tree, and when he did, the head flew off the axe and landed in the river. And he said, Elisha, it's not mine. I borrowed it. What am I going to do? And Elisha said, well, where did it fall? And the guy pointed, right over there. And Elisha went and he cut a stick up, and he threw the stick on top of where the axe head had fallen, and the axe head swam up to the stick. And Elisha said, pick it up. Why did he have to tell the guy to pick it up? Probably the guy was too stunned, because axe heads don't float. So So the guy picked it up. He had the axe head he could give back to who he borrowed it from. These are kind of little things in the grand scheme of things. I mean, this isn't like the fire falling on the sacrifices with Elijah or felling the giant like David did. So comparatively speaking, these are little miracles. But the Bible says that in Psalms 37, that God delights in every detail of our lives. So he took care of all these people around Elisha. He made sure they had non-poisonous food to eat, in plenty, and that they didn't lose the things they needed. So he took care of them. And he takes care of us too, no matter what. So let's sing our song. One door and only one, and yet the sides are two.